We are live on the Nebrasketball Hour, brought to you by Nebraska Realty Wahoo Office. Welcome to the show. It is another win for the Nebraska basketball team. They beat Rutgers 80-68. The Huskers moved to 21-2 overall. They moved to 10-2 in the Big Ten. And we are here to talk about it. I am Jack Mitchell. That is Kaleb Henry with me. Hello, Kaleb.
Hello, hello.
On the I-80 Club, those of you who are listening on podcast after the fact, like, subscribe, whatever on your podcast provider, the I-80 Club. We'd love to have you regularly listening to our shows. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the YouTube page, set some alerts. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming up here, especially regarding Nebraska basketball over the course of the next month. We will be taking our chat, as we always do, from our members on the Discord. You can be a part of that, patreon.com/I80 Club. Get yourself a membership, and you can be on all the show's live chats, plus get all our premium shows, our Wednesday night I-80 lives, our chat sacks, inside information, all of that stuff. And we would love to have you be a part of that. So patreon.com/I80 Club. All right. With that said, Nebraska does get the win. You look at the score and you're kind of surprised at the score. I feel like it's the opposite of what it's been with Nebraska a few times this year, where you're like, oh man, they're playing bad. And you look at the screen, you're like, oh, it's closer than I thought. It was the exact opposite, where it's like, oh man, they're really killing them. In the second half, you're like, why aren't they? Wow, they're only up by 14 here. This could be a single digit game still. It never felt after the second media timeout of the game like it was going to be much of a contest in that range. But the score was kind of, felt deceiving. We can get into why that was the case. But the big story, I think, out of the game, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it plenty tonight, is that Rienk Mast has edged ahead in the center position battle against Leo Curtis, and I think he now projects to be the starter against Purdue. We'll see how Leo's ankle is, but Rienk Mast tonight does go for freaking 26 points, 10 two-point shots, 1 for 4 from 3. He adds 8 rebounds. Beyond that, we'll go deeper into the box score here in a little bit. We'll also have our Ryan Anderson Memorial. He has not died. Ryan Anderson Memorial Player of the Game. Discuss that and a whole lot more. So with that said, Kaleb, right away, right off the top, what do you got? General thoughts about this game today?
Yeah, in general thoughts, and maybe some of this is why it was close for a long time. And even in the second half, this is the most 20 to 30 point difference feeling game for it being 12 points. But it was because Rutgers hit a ridiculous amount of tough shots, like contested shots, and it seemed like almost every contested shot, there were a few threes in there too, but how many shots were in that range where it's like that's the worst part of the floor to take a shot from like 6 inches in front of the 3-point line to about 13.
It's so feet. True. It's so true.
It was so consistent that was the spot on the floor Rutgers was hunting. And you go to the other side of the floor and Nebraska's going, that's our red area. We will not shoot from that spot. And that was all Rutgers wanted to get into with their isolation, take 1 to 2 dribbles and then pull up from there. And it was okay. They drew a couple of fouls on some of them, got some weird and ones, but there were so many of those that were contested that they were making like line drives to where it hits the front part of the rim and then just drops in. I was like, there's something wrong with the physics on that basketball for it to make it and count for 2 points. But they made a bunch of those. And through that first half, you're like, Nebraska's not playing bad. The offense started out really hot, 4 for 4, then 5 of 6. You're getting made threes. Rutgers just is shooting a good clip with dumb shots. Whereas you think about Nebraska in the last 2 games against Michigan and Illinois, and you go in the first half, Nebraska was shooting a good clip at really good shots. These were dumb shots. Like, these are not shots that you will have anyone at this level say continuously dribble into these contested 17 to 18 footers. That's all Rutgers wanted to do.
Yes, yeah.
But they were making them. So at the end of the day, like, they still counted. You, like, wherever you make it from the floor, you're still going to get at least 2 points. But they were bad shots, and there was no way that was going to keep up. Ultimately, they don't make enough of those as Nebraska just stayed consistent throughout the game making shots. And it did feel more like a 20 to 30 point difference, even with that late little charge, that mini 6-0 run. And you're going, oh, okay, Nebraska is it going to get to single digits? It ultimately didn't, but it felt like a much wider margin than what the final score was.
It really did. And you hit the nail on the head. I didn't even talk to you. I was watching the game, and the people I was with, I was like, how many terrible shots can Rutgers make? And I don't know if it ever did stop. It went through the whole game. I mean, they really did it in the first half, got some crazy rolls, took some just like completely contested threes, some insane step backs, and they ended up, here's the stat of the game. They shot a better field goal percentage than Nebraska did in that game.
Yeah.
Rutgers shoots 48%. Nebraska shoots 47%. They were essentially even on 3-point. I guess Nebraska was one percentage point higher than Rutgers was from 3-point percentage.
But Nebraska got 8 more shots in the game because of the turnover difference.
There you go. That was where it was. 15 turnovers for Rutgers. Nebraska only had 6. And I am a little surprised now in looking at the rebounding numbers because Rutgers, and this is because Nebraska put more shots up, but Rutgers did out-rebound Nebraska. There were long stretches of the game where it looked like Rutgers was actively trying not to rebound the ball.
Well, they heard that Rienk had been sick, so they're like, hey, get away from him. And, he's going to go grab the board. I don't really want it.
It was bizarre in that Nebraska would have – there were a few rebounds where Nebraska had 4 guys. You could take your choice between all of them who were going to get – it was like they were trying to get back on defense almost was Rutgers during the game. But they did end up out-rebounding Nebraska at 34-33, and both teams had 8 offensive rebounds. And so that ended up – but, I mean, per shot, Nebraska certainly did better than Rutgers did there. But we'll delve into some of the individual other box score items, including player by player on this whole thing. But Kaleb, I guess regardless of how close, how not close it was, I think they're probably even more than the final score on this thing was one thing Nebraska fans and Josh and I talked about it in the morning show. He said, you know, what would constitute sort of getting you back to where you were about this team after these losses? And I said, a win by double digits, which they barely ended up getting.
All right, got that.
Felt like more than that. And then I said Rienk Mast looking like Rienk Mast again. And there's no doubt about that. He looked, even right when the game started, first couple of offensive possessions, it was just like, okay, he's moving again. He looks dynamic again. And it wasn't just coming off of the sickness, that obviously was a huge part of it, but he hadn't looked like he did today. And part of it was the matchup, but he hadn't looked like that for a long time. In fact, I think I heard he had his most points since the Creighton game. I believe I heard that during the broadcast.
So obviously he didn't play in the Michigan game. So Nebraska's last 6 games, the last 5 games for Rienk, he only scored in double figures once. That was 12 points. But he had not scored 20 points since December 7th against Creighton, where he scored exactly 20 points. And he has 26 today. You're right, though, the shooting, when he hit that first 3, and that felt not quite Bear K cathartic when he hit that one earlier in the year, and Pinnacle Bank Arena went nuts because of the low percentage he had been shooting from there. But it still felt like, oh, okay, there's some pressure off because he hit that 3. He was wide open for it. It ends up being the only one he makes, but it still felt really good. And then he was bound and determined, and maybe some of this was the game plan that Fred wanted. Rienk was going to be aggressive inside the paint and around the rim. He has a game high with 8 rebounds, 4 on the offensive side, but he does shoot really well. He didn't go 100%, but he was getting some hook shots. He was getting some pump fakes and stepping through and going through contact. And that's just something that we haven't seen Rienk do really well for, I guess, 2 months now.
Beginning of December, probably. Wisconsin Creighton games, I think, is the last.
Yeah, it was that week.
Just in terms of how many field goals he made. So he was 11 for 20 in this game, and one of them was a 3 that he made. So he had 10 2-point field goals.
10 of 16.
10 of 16. That's his most 2-point field goals of the year. He hasn't had that in any other game. He has not had more than 5, I don't believe, if I'm looking at this really quick. He has not had more than 5 since the Wisconsin game. The Wisconsin game, he had 7 made field goals. And that was a lot more of what this offense looked like during the beginning of the season when Nebraska was doing well against Oklahoma. That was a bigger part of it. When they were doing well against Kansas State, that was a bigger part of it as well. So this was his best inside game of the year, I think you can say, with shooting over 50% from field goal, well over 50% from 2. Him being able to make those, do the kind of the creative way of making shots when he isn't going to be able to go all the way to the rim. He had one layup I know he'd like back that he probably should have made. He probably should have had another one. And then he had that sort of dunk that he got blocked on too. So,
and he had really good touch on that shot just before halftime.
Yeah.
In that kind of like 10 foot range. And he just, the one hand floats it up there.
It's almost as if the time off, not that being sick or in the emergency room was good. It was almost as if the time off helped him a little bit in a weird way, I thought.
Well, that's always the hopeful thing is if someone's going to miss time, and it definitely seemed that way for Frager a week ago. You know that he comes in and he's finding spots and he's making a bunch of threes. He wasn't as dynamic at getting to the rim, and he doesn't have a bunch of points today, but you saw him drive the basket in a way that he didn't do against Illinois. But that time off where you're able to just see the game a little bit differently, if you know you're not playing, and he was like throwing up. So that's a little bit different than no you're not playing and not traveling like Frager was. But for Rienk to have that time off to rest and recover, and the whole team to have this week, I thought this week was really important for them as a team to get that midweek off and not go, there's a game coming up in 3 days, because there's another game coming up in 3 days right now. But to go through and have that time for Rienk to get healthy, but spend some more time just mentally getting right, not just physically getting right. Yeah. Because there's clearly been something for the last 2 months that had
I agree.
Just something's been going on to tweak whatever his game is around the rim. And it hasn't been awful, horrible, you won't take it at all, but it just hasn't been there. And you see it in the scoring numbers, you see it in some of the rebounding numbers, but he showed up in a big way in both of those today.
Yeah, I mean, he had this stretch during the beginning of the year where he had 26 against Oklahoma, which he tied today in terms of points. He had 26 against Oklahoma. He had 17 against New Mexico, including 5. He was 6 for 12 from the field in that game. He had 20 against Kansas State. Winthrop was one who went nuts for 3. These are all consecutive games. Then there was the upstate game, but then he had the Creighton game where he had a really good game, and he had the Wisconsin game when he had a really good game. And then he went to Illinois. And that was when you hit the 21 plus feet of Eastern Europeans. And it was kind of like after that game, from that game on, with the exception of the 3-pointers he hit against Michigan State, you did not see early season Rienk. And he did only have 2 assists tonight. I mean, not that I'm nitpicking here with that thing. Like, if he can do what he's doing like he did tonight, that's when that starts to become a weapon again too, is his passing. And you start to get back to talking about the kind of the nightmare matchup that he can become. That's a huge part of taking Nebraska from good to very good to great, I think, in terms of what this team can do.
Yeah, his passing, plus you didn't get a Pryce and Braden heater. Like if you get a combined heater there, Sanford ends up with 15, but he misses 6 threes. Braden went 0 for 5 from deep.
Yeah.
If you combine Rienk in his scoring with the heater and what those two are able to do when they're both going off from deep, that's where you get the team that this would have been a 30-plus point game if you get that. And there's no way that it's getting to that point in the last minute where you're like, oh, are you going to have to make free throws now? That's the difference. But getting Rienk scoring means you don't have to have the heater from both of those guys every night in the way that you were kind of riding for a while between them, Jamarcus going off. I'm sure we'll talk about him as we go through the box score too, but Sam Hoiberg with his 7th straight game in double figures.
Yeah. Sam set the tone right off and then gave everyone a heart attack because he looked like he hurt his ankle
right away
on that first one. Was it that first basket? And
yeah.
I don't know what happened. I thought, well, maybe he's okay. Maybe his shoe just came off, but he was limping around a little bit, but it didn't seem to impact him because especially in that first half, he looked like he was playing with the effort of the rest of the Rutgers team at times during that game. He was like an Energizer bunny out there and showing his ability to get to the rim during the course of that time, getting steals, getting rebounds. At one point, he was on triple-double watch alert and then kind of slowed down.
His three-point shot, he's so confident in that now.
That is because 3 for 4. I'm really glad you brought that up. I can't remember. I talked to someone who's seen more of practice, and he said one of the biggest things about this team that is just not accepted is that Hoiberg is in the group of great shooters on this team.
Yeah.
And he's starting to show that. So he was 3 for 4 from 3 tonight, had some huge ones. He ends up in the night with 13 points as well, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals. And he actually had 2 turnovers, which is, you don't see too many games where he ends up having 2 turnovers in the game as well. And then, I already said it. I did it. The rebound. I thought Berke had some good moments on the boards once again. Yeah. Pryce, he wasn't his red hot from 3 by any means. He was kind of average from 3 during this game, but he continues. I think for him, the exciting thing for me offensively is he continues to show that he can score at the rim and in difficult situations.
It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. He had, and how about that no look pass that he had as well in the second half to, I think it was to Berke. Had a really good no look pass during that game, that part of the game as well. So
Jack, Pryce has now, because he made 3 today, that's 11 straight games of making at least 3 3-pointers.
Wow.
You have to go back to the North Dakota game where he went 1 for 5.
Wow.
To where he didn't make at least 3 in a game.
We talk about all those games, Rienk, where he was kind of all the way up to that Illinois game where he was such a key part of the offense. And I think that first half of the Illinois game was when Pryce went off, and it was almost like there was a changeover here with this in terms of handing off the baton a little bit. And Frager picked it up right after that as well. And that's when he became a huge part of the scoring. And if you could combine those in a single game ever, Kaleb, which it feels like you've barely done, maybe, I can't remember what Rienk did against Oregon, but it feels like you've hardly had that where you've had both the best part of late season Nebraska and the best part of early season Nebraska from the offense together. That's when you're going to be able to beat really, really good teams going forward in this season as well. So real quick, what did you make of Frager? Not necessarily statistically, although you can talk about that, but one of the other questions we had going into this game is he going to look like he's back to complete normal? Did you think he did?
I thought he did. I thought he did, especially the way he was driving to the basket, and he goes 2 for 5 on shots inside the arc, 0 for 5 from outside it. Does make a couple of free throws, doesn't grab a whole bunch of rebounds, but that's not necessarily been his MO. But I did like that you were able to see, here's a little explosiveness. Here's him getting somebody on his hip and getting into the paint and trying to get footwork. And he missed one that he definitely wants back that he had the really good footwork, got to his left hand, and then just chunked it. Like it happens sometimes, but that was the thing I was most wanting to see going into this is, does he have that ability and want to take somebody off the dribble? And he did that today. He didn't do that a week ago. Now on his 3-point shooting, he wasn't taking those, and maybe he took one from the corner, but a lot of them where he was taking on the wing, he was a few feet beyond the arc. That's not normally what he's doing, and that's why so many of those were short. I think for him, it wasn't that the shooting was bad. He just wasn't getting up on the 3-point line. So if he gets up on the 3-point line, he probably makes 2 of those 5, and that was the difference for him shooting from beyond the arc today.
I don't know when it'll happen, but I feel like I need to see one big dunk, and then I'll be like, okay, we're back. I feel like we need that from him, and that's when we can say we are back to the previous era of Frager. By the way, for those who are watching live with us, I know this will be old news to people on the podcast later. We now have 6 minutes and 18 seconds left in West Lafayette. Purdue now has a 2-point lead against Oregon. What in the world is going on with Purdue?
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K, Jack.
I mean, I don't even know if I don't even think I want that to happen.
No, you don't, because you want Purdue to remain as high as possible and as good of a potential win as possible.
I'm not going to be sad if
But when you're playing the resume game, you want Purdue to be as good as possible. They just had a 3-game losing streak. You don't want them to lose 4 out of 5.
Man, yeah, that really changes the look of that game coming up on Tuesday. We'll look forward. We'll let this game end hopefully during our show, and then maybe kind of work that into the way when we look forward. But I do want to make sure and thank our title sponsor, Nebraska Realty, Wahoo Office, for being our sponsor for the Nebrasketball Hour this year. Couldn't do it without them. And hey, stop in, check out their real estate listings that they've got. Tim and Kurt and Dan, you're going to get great service. These guys are all among the best what they do, all of them within the top 10 in Nebraska Realty, which is a big group. That Wahoo office is the all-star time. They've been in business. Kurt's been in business 20 plus years. Dan for 35 years. I mean, all of them you put together, and it's just a huge amount of experience between the 3 of those guys. You can get a market analysis for free. Dan is doing ag business through estates, and we're talking buyer sellers. And the other thing, Kaleb, is it's not just, we want to tell you the Wahoo office, because there's a lot of Nebraska Realty offices, but they have clients all over the state, in Lincoln, Omaha, everywhere.
Yeah, you can go anywhere. A lot of people, when they hear, okay, this is Wahoo office, I'm not necessarily thinking of moving to Wahoo, or I don't have something to sell in Wahoo. Doesn't matter. If you're a Nebrasketball fan, these are like-minded folks who are going to take care of you anywhere across the state.
Absolutely. So check them out. You can check the phone number if you're watching on the video. Got Kurt's number up there. He can get you started, or we can also give you that phone number for the office if you want to call during the week, 402-443-3415, right in between Lincoln and Omaha. And that's why it gives them a great chance to be able to serve both of those markets very well. Not just ag, not just residential, not just land, all of the above. So big thanks, Nebraska Realty. What office, Kaleb?
Wahoo!
All right, we will have our Ryan Anderson Memorial Player of the Game coming up a little bit later on the show. He's not dead, don't worry. It's just ask the Nebrasketball podcast about it. We have to say it now to keep the bit alive and keep Ryan Anderson alive, who continues to be alive here at this point.
Are we ever going to do, I know we did this with one of our old coworkers back in radio, Jack, but not dead, just dead to us. We're not doing that.
No, because Ryan isn't even that. We would love to see, we love Ryan. We love Ryan.
We love him. Great guy.
In terms of Rutgers' success in shooting this game, and we did, and yes, there was a lot of it where they just made a lot of shots that it looked like they shouldn't during the course of the game. Is there, I mean, if we're gonna talk about Nebraska not pulling away in this game. Fred, I heard it in the post game. He said, hey, I would have liked to have seen little bit more killer instinct. He said, I think we peaked out in that game at the end of the first half, and they did. They kind of got close. I don't think they ever quite got the 10-0 run, but they had a couple of spots where they're close to that kill shot. I think they got up by 20, maybe early in the second half.
Yeah, got up by 20 in the second half.
And then Rutgers kind of started to bring it back. If
largest run was 7-0.
7-0, yeah. If you are nitpicking, if you are coming out of that saying, hey, here's what they need to do better here after that game against better teams, what is the thing that you are pointing to?
Closing it out defensively, because you did get up almost 20 points. And what was it? I think Nebraska didn't make a shot in the last made basket for Nebraska was with 4:16 to go.
Wow.
So
there you go.
Making shots after, like, not just in the last 4 minutes, but get to that last media timeout and don't just stop making baskets. Nebraska does get 5 free throws made in that time period. But even then, even without the offensive capabilities continuing for that last little stretch of the game, defensively not letting them get baskets to where that matters. Because you look at what Rutgers did, they got a couple of free throws, then they got a couple more free throws, and then they went bang, bang on a couple of shots, and you're going, oh, now it's a 10-point game. Now there's something weird could happen. It's a very small percentage, but it's something weird could happen. The foot definitely came off the gas going into that last minute when you subbed out Rienk Mast. It was like, here it is. The game's over. Sam and some of the other starters are still out there, but the foot came off the gas, and Rutgers turned it up to 11 offensively and took a couple of those shots, and they made them. And that's where it got to where it could get funky, but it just didn't, because Cale goes and makes his free throws, and you go back to a 12-point difference, and then Rutgers doesn't make their shot, so it's over. But finishing it out defensively, don't take the foot off the gas for those 30 seconds, and the end of that game doesn't feel as weird as it ended up feeling.
And I agree with you on the end of the game, but it was even just for kind of a decent period, the last 10 minutes of the game, or maybe a little more than that, it kind of felt like, okay, Nebraska was going out and like, we're going to get our points. We're going to be able to score. It's almost like they were just content to go basket for basket with Rutgers instead of, having and again, Rutgers made some difficult shots during that game. But for a game here, can you believe this? Nebraska had the same amount of free throw attempts as Rutgers. Yeah. Nebraska 11 for 12, Rutgers 7 for 12. That could have made the game a little bit more interesting if both of those went in the other direction. And so, I agree, but it's hard to walk away from that one getting too concerned about what happened there. It was almost like, man, I don't know, Kaleb, the anime crowd that was big, you couldn't really feel the energy in the building. It seemed like, to me, at least watching on TV.
No, and I didn't expect there to be an energy in the building for the number of people that had driven up those prices to get there for the one-piece promotional trading card so that they could either sell it on the spot to scalpers or save it and go home and put it up on eBay for $300 plus. That I really enjoyed the number of people who are finding out about that for the first time today. If you listen to the I-80 Club or you read Husker Max, you would have known about this at least 8 days ago. Isn't it great? Subscribe here. We'll know about this stuff.
I heard Kevin Cooler talk about it. I heard you talk about it. I read about it. I still don't get it. But
well, you don't have to get it. It's just the number of people that showed up today and talked about it like it was this brand new thing. I've never heard of this. I don't get it. Okay, cool. At least know about it going ahead of time if you're following Nebraska men's basketball.
I had to leave just before the very end of the first half to pick up my daughter, who was nearby where we were watching the game, and so I listened to Kent and Jeff, and that was when Nebraska just I think Pryce hit a 3 and got up by 14, and there was a timeout there toward the end, and they're making jokes about Pokemon cards in the bathroom under the radar deals, all of those things, and I was like, wow, we're in the blowout material here already. At the end of the first half.
Pokemon cards. What do we got? What do you want? What we want to talk Pokemon cards?
I don't know. this is what I told Josh this morning during Saturday morning coffee. I said, one of the hard lines between my generation, which is either young X or kind of the XY line, and true millennials is Pokemon, because
It is.
we don't know. You find someone who's, in their upper 40s, mid to upper 40s, they don't know generally what that stuff is. And I said there's another hard line, and it's the show Boy Meets World. I bet you watch the crap out of that show.
I watched it a lot when I was younger. It wasn't something where it was like a religious watch. No.
Oh, really? Well, maybe you're too young then.
I saw plenty of it. I saw
the heart of the millennials were all in on that, and we were too old. We were in
Jack. I traded 2 pink Starburst for a Cubone card on the bus in 3rd grade. Awesome.
I don't understand a word you're saying. Don't understand anything that you just said. Oregon 61, Purdue 58. Oregon is, they're on a mini roll here right now against Purdue, and just got a turnover. Oh my gosh. What in the world is going on?
Welcome to the Purdue Oregon watch party.
Do you remember watching that Oregon game in Lincoln and being like, this team is, they're a shell of a team, Oregon.
Yeah, a shell of a team, and so is that guy's the top of his head. Jeez.
Yeah, yes. So we'll see. I think we're going to have this done before this show ends, because there's now only 3 minutes, 55 seconds left. Purdue with the ball down 3 right now and struggling at home against Oregon. All right. Well, while we're waiting for that to end, I think it is time to go ahead and award our He's Not Dead, the Ryan Anderson Memorial Player of the Game. The memorial is for being the player of the game, not for him, I think. And this is where Kaleb and I see if we are on the same page in terms of who we think that player of the game was. It's subjective. We can use whatever sort of framework that we would like to decide who it is today. I think this is going to be another easy one like it was last time. Kaleb, is it anyone other than Rienk for you?
Actually, yes.
Really?
Yeah, so you go ahead. You talk about Rienk first. You go ahead and talk about.
Well, we've already hit most of it, but I think just the fact that he was able to come back so strongly, not only after his injury, but after just several games where he had not been able to be an inside presence, and ended up having his best inside scoring game of the entire year. His efficiency was high. His field goal percentage was high. He got 8 rebounds. He got 4 offensive rebounds during the course of the game. Even had a steal. He had a couple of assists, only 1 turnover for him, which I will take 1 turnover from him during the course of the game.
I don't think he had any turnovers, Jack.
Did I see that wrong? Wow, he had none. I was looking at the wrong lane there. Yeah. Pryce and Jamarcus both did. Rienk didn't. So I'll take that even more. He's even more than the Ryan Anderson Memorial Player of the game. And so, yeah, I've got to give it to him being the leading scorer and just really quickly getting back to what we'd hoped he'd look like. And again, I could tell it right away when the game started. He was just he I don't know, fast is typically a word that you use with him, but he was moving a lot more smoothly. So I'm curious who, if you're not going to Rienk, who you're going with then.
I'm going to go with Sammy, my boy.
Sammy, my boy.
He's up with 13 points, 5 of 7 shooting, 3 for 4 from downtown. Yeah, he only scored half as much as Rienk, but if he would have taken 20 shots, I have no doubt he would have gotten to 26 points. But he has 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals. Just filled up the stat sheet, including doing all of that when I thought he was going to come out of the game less than a minute after the ball was tipped. Like after it got started, I was like, okay, he's coming out. What are they going to do with the early rotation? Are they going to go right away to Frager, or is Cale going to come in to be kind of your Sam replacement? What are they going to do? And then, nope, he's still out there. And then he goes and fills up the stat sheet like that. It's one of those things that you see what he's doing, scoring the basketball, so much confidence on the offensive end when he gets into the lane, when they're running plays for him to get threes, him and Jamarcus on that kind of Sam drives into the paint, and kicks it out and then just rotates back to the top of the key for a wide open three.
Yeah.
He's so confident in all of that. His rebounding, his distributing. We know what he does defensively. He's just taken it to such a different level this year, but over this stretch where he's now 7 straight games in double figures scoring, he's proving to be a lot more than just coach's kid. He's out there for a team. He's a good story. He's the glue guy. No, he's a legitimate.
No,
he's a legitimate guy to have a case for all Big Ten defensive team, to have a case for all Big Ten. Probably honorable mention is where he'll finish up on one of those teams. But he's a guy that you have to give a real look at for, okay, is he all Big Ten, like third team type of stuff? Like, where would he fit into that? And he's playing just so well, and he's such a big part of the success for this team. But on a day like today, where you don't get the absolute heater from Pryce and from Braden, and you do get 26 points from Rienk to make up for that. It's just Sam continuing to impact the game from start to finish.
The speed he was playing at during that first half between driving, defense, ended up with 4 steals. Now I want to see before this season's over. Maybe we can get it in one of these home games against Penn State or Maryland or something. I want to see the triple doubles where steals plays one of the stats. That's what I want to see.
He's going to get that though, and be 1 for 3 shooting. He's going to have 3 points.
That's fine. Get it, rebounds, assists, and steals. That's even more impressive. That's the true effort guy. Triple double.
That's your glue man. Triple double.
That's the glue triple double. Rebounds, assists, and steals.
He's not a glue guy. He's a glue man.
Oh my gosh. I'm redefining that. The glue, the triple W brought to you by Elmer's. That's what I would like to see. I have a couple other quick questions for you, and I'm a little bit trying to stall to see if I feel like I can't do an analysis of this next game until this game ends. Purdue now ahead by 1 with right at 3 minutes left here in the game. What do you think has happened with Jared Garcia? You have any idea?
The couple of minutes he was in against Michigan were really bad,
and then that's it. Then he's done for the year now.
No, I don't think he's done for the year, but I don't know. And the other part of this is we don't know what practice looked like between Michigan and Illinois, and then what practice looked like this week. But obviously, when you get back fully healthy and you have Rienk back and you have Frager back, Garcia's just kind of lost and out of the rotation, even though he played a little bit of mini hero against Illinois that first game with his rebounding, with his late putback. Like there were things that Garcia has definitely done to help the success of this team. He's just a little bit too far down in the rotation for having a real big impact. Like especially today, you didn't necessarily need him. We'll see what it looks like against Purdue. Do you need a little bit more size? Do you need someone who can go out there and rebound? If you do,
and remember against Illinois, they didn't.
Remember back to that Michigan game, Frager was out. And you started to wonder, was Garcia pushing to do more offensively, do too much offensively? And that caused him to have just a couple of really bad possessions, bad turnovers, losing it out of bounds. If he can come back and just be Jared Garcia, just play his role in the way that one of the things that makes this team so successful is that guys just play their roles. They're never really trying to do too much at a time. If Garcia can come in and do that, Don't be trying to take too many guys off the dribble. That's not really your game. They're probably going to leave you open for 3. You're going to be a little bit in bear K territory. If you're wide open in the corner, sure. But outside of that, on offense, don't be a negative and play good defense and grab rebounds. Like, that's the Jared Garcia role. They just haven't necessarily had that in a spot that they needed, especially in the wake of just how bad it looked against Michigan.
Yeah, you actually look at his whole kind of year in terms of minutes. He had 10 minutes in that Michigan game. Obviously didn't play in the last 2. Minnesota, he got 6 minutes. That was another one where they put him in the first half and didn't like what they saw and yanked him. That was 2 games in a row. The last time he got minutes, I think in both half. Well, he got 11 minutes against Washington, had 5 points in that game. Only 1 minute at Northwestern. 10 minutes in the blowout against Oregon, 5 minutes at Indiana, 4 minutes at Illinois, 8 minutes versus Michigan State. And so, in terms of tight games, really that Illinois game that they won, the first Illinois game, he had 13 minutes in that game and had 10 points in that game. He hasn't had a lot of time. You go back to Winthrop would be the other one that was kind of a tight game where he ended up having 11 minutes and 7 points in that game. But I think because of what he did in that game at Illinois, as you mentioned, and then the lack of depth, I thought for sure you would start to see more of him. And like, I get that both the first half of Minnesota, first half of Michigan, they didn't like what they saw, but man, it feels harsh, kind of, doesn't it? Am I off on that?
I mean, if you weren't having success, if Illinois wasn't the historically number one team ever offensively in KenPom, like I think that's what I saw earlier.
Is the concern his defense? Is that what do you think the biggest weakness? Because I'm looking like, does he have a lot of turnovers? And not really. I mean, he did have 3 against Oregon, but other than that, he's not turning the ball over. That's not an issue.
No, my concern is what does he do offensively for you? Is it just he's just there? Because any other time, even when you have a rotation out there that has Cale Jacobsen, like, he's confident and he's getting into the paint in a different way, because he was doing a lot of the old Sam stuff of getting the paint, don't have a plan. By the way, I don't think that was a goaltend.
I didn't either.
I think he got it at the apex. I was like, ooh,
I didn't either, but I was not bad calls happen, right? That's
they start to even themselves out after you go, 2 weeks of bad calls. So Cale's playing in that way, and he's hit some big 3-pointers. I just don't feel that confident, and maybe the coaching staff is in that same line of thinking about what he does for a role for you offensively.
Yeah, maybe that's it. And you get something from Cale. First half today, he was defensively. There was about a 3-minute period in that game where Cale was just a menace defensively. I think he only ended up with 2 steals. I thought it was 3 from my memory of the game. Maybe it did. Sometimes I don't know how they score those, but he has. I mean, we can talk about how he's become more comfortable offensively. He still has a ways to go on that, but he will also have spurts with that, how the shooting has gotten a little bit more reliable. But I think just as much in terms of why he's become, more of an asset, someone they're willing to trust, is not only that he can be a solid defender, but he can sometimes play the Sam Hoiberg ball hawk defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he did that today during the course of the game. And next year, he's going to take that role. I mean, that'll be his role. I'm sure he's going to play not necessarily the offensive role that Hoiberg does, but he's going to play the defensive role that Hoiberg does, I think, next year on this team.
Yeah, I think to just really quick to look at, kind of project Cale Jacobsen. He wasn't getting minutes last year. He was figuring it out. He was trying to find a spot on a struggling team that especially struggled down the stretch. And then he got opportunities and he ran with them in Las Vegas in the same way that Sam a couple of years ago, because of injuries, started to get opportunities. And that's when you got more opportunities for Casey, and they parlayed that into a run to make the tournament 2 years ago. And Cale makes that big jump going into this year. He's absolutely a major rotational piece for them, not just okay, guys are hurt, we kind of need you to go in here. It's no, he's depended on to do things to help this team be successful. And then to see, okay, here's the jumps that Sam kind of made each year. He's really going on that same path, and maybe a year ahead of Sam in a way, in what he's contributing. So I think you're right.
That's true.
You're right.
I mean, that's an interesting way to look at it. Where go back and look at Sam, where he was in year. This is kind of when he started playing, wasn't it? Was it? There was an injury that really got him playing, and I can't remember who it was to. Or
Bandamel.
Was it Yes, when Bandamel got injured. So was that Sam's freshman year? It probably would have been.
It would have been his redshirt freshman year.
Yeah, and yes, that's right. It was Bandamel's injury at Penn State, and I think you're right. And that's when he started getting in. I had never thought of it that way, but you could make the argument, yes, Cale Jacobsen is ahead in his career of where Sam Hoiberg was. And again, they're not necessarily one-to-one comps in terms of their position or who they are offensively, but there's just a lot of similarities, I think, defensively with them for sure. So I did want to make sure and point that out. We've got a timeout now in Purdue, Oregon, and I know probably most of you have this on a second screen if you're interested. This guy, the Purdue, this must be a new player. Lawyer must be a new player for Purdue. I'm not familiar with him. He made a three to tie the game up, or to give the lead there at the top of the key. And I'm kidding, because Lawyer has been there since. Well, he was very good with Glenn Robinson back in the day on Purdue. I thought he set Glenn Robinson up very well on that team he played with them on. Are they looking at a? Yeah. Are they looking at a flagrant on that screen that was set by Purdue?
Yeah.
On the one where Lawyer made the shot.
Yeah, because the arm comes up, but like like you just got shot. Like, this isn't JFK in Dallas. You don't have to react that way.
They didn't call it. Yeah. They didn't call it. So Oregon will have the ball down to 6 seconds on the shot clock. They already started the next possession. And they'll have a chance to tie or take the lead. They're going to have to get a shot up very quickly here. So we'll see that. They've got Lynn inbounding the ball here. I'm doing play-by-play for another game. I bet they're going to try and get it back to Lynn for this shot for Oregon, because he's been rather hot today, at least in the little parts that I've seen with this. And here's the shot to take the lead. Missed it. Purdue has it. All right. Purdue's going to probably win this game, it looks like. Okay, well, let's assume that, and as they shoot the free throws, let's go ahead and look ahead now for Nebraska. Assuming Purdue holds on here, I mean, I think either way, but assuming Purdue holds on here in this game, you're going to have another one of those nights at Pinnacle Bank Arena on Tuesday night, Caleb. You're going to have a crowd that is back with, not that they ever lost a ton, but back with momentum, excitement, everything about this team that's close to peaking out. It's a 6 p.m. game, and so that's always kind of interesting to get everybody all the way down there on a Tuesday night. But it's going to be another one. And Purdue, Illinois now, after Nebraska's played him twice, I think there's no love lost between the fans and Illinois and vice versa. Illinois, I know, is taunting Nebraska on the way out, but if you come into the season and you're like, hey, who would you just rather beat in principle? It's always Purdue, right?
Yeah.
It's always Purdue. Well, Illinois is going to have a chance Oregon is going to have a chance to tie the game with a three. No good. So, Purdue brings a little, other than Michigan State, they're kind of the bluest of the blue bloods in the Nebraska era of the Big Ten.
And they've had so much success over the last several years.
Yeah, they've been the best team in the Big Ten over the last 5 years, I would say.
Yeah, you definitely look at that. Like the Hoiberg era, for sure, has been dominated by Purdue. Post-COVID era has been dominated by Purdue. Not that other programs haven't had good teams. And you're also looking at where Purdue is and where Nebraska is. Very close in the AP. Nebraska at number 9 doesn't lose this week. Purdue, if they hold on here, goes another week without losing. You're a borderline top 10 game again for Nebraska. And that's where we were looking at this run of 3 out of 4 with Michigan, Illinois, and Purdue. Now you're in the part of that stretch. You need this game. Not to say that Nebraska's chances at a 2 seed are out if you lose this game, but it's a lot harder if you look at this stretch and go, lost to Michigan, lost to Illinois, lost to Purdue, and then you have to finish out the rest of the season because those teams are going to be ranked incredibly high. Very likely that all 3 are in the top 10 or at least the top 15 in the final AP going into the NCAA tournament. But you want to get some of those wins. It was good to get the win against Michigan State. It was good to at least split with Illinois. This is one where you're looking at your resume again and saying that they put that name next to you. They put that name on your resume for good wins. You need this one.
Yeah, I mean, like if you could win either this or the Iowa game at home, you'd rather win this one because this will be a quad one, and that Iowa game may not be in terms of the home game. So
take the 4-point shot.
All right, Purdue is going to win by just 4 against Oregon, or maybe by 1 if he makes this.
Terrible freaking shot.
Yeah, Nebraska is currently number 10 in the net before this game. So in front of them are, in order, Michigan, Arizona, Duke, Illinois, Iowa State, Houston, UConn, Purdue, Gonzaga. Immediately after Nebraska, Florida, Michigan State, Kansas, Vanderbilt. So this is kind of the range of teams that you're looking off. And then I think there's kind of a decent drop off when you get to St. Louis, Virginia, Louisville, and now BYU, who's been a bit disappointing, I think, this year, given the expectations they came in during the course of this season. My number, and a lot of people have disagreed with this, but I will stick with it, that I think if you get 5 wins and don't have any five or fewer losses, and none of them are bad. And so I'll put Rutgers is out of the way, so that won't be a bad loss. And so that would be the home games against Northwestern, Maryland, and Penn State. And then I would maybe say at USC too. We can throw that in there if you want to. If none of those are your losses, you might still be able to lose 3 more games and still have a 2 seed. It's going to depend on what other things do, but it's certainly I'm not sure it guarantees it, but it's certainly, I think, a better than 50-50 proposition if you can stay above that. And so with that in mind, and for me, the sort of the 1-2 seed has become, for whatever reason, almost my biggest focus on anything, more than conference championship, more than getting that double bye, more than anything, just because I think it sets Nebraska up, the matchups alone obviously are going to be significantly different. Playing a 2-15 even feels different than a 3-14, and a 2-7 feels really different than a 3-6 in the second round as well. You also put yourself almost for sure in a drivable spot for Nebraska against in Oklahoma City or St. Louis. If you're a 3, you still have an okay shot of that. But all that to say, if you beat Purdue, you're now, I mean, you kind of have to lose that at some point, right? You would have to probably find 4 losses the rest of the way. And there's not that many games left.
Yeah.
Or 3 losses, I should say. Yeah.
And that's the importance of this game, because you brought up the net. It hasn't updated yet for Ken Palm and Bart, but on Ken Palm, Nebraska 12, Purdue 8. And the Bart, Nebraska 12, Purdue 9.
And that could be live. Bart, I think, might be live.
And Bart,
they are. Bart is live. So Nebraska's 12 after this game, Purdue 9. So,
but that's
what you were saying. I was just telling you that includes the game, or the Nebraska game.
That's what I'm saying. It needs to update to the Purdue game.
I'm sorry, I thought you meant the Nebraska game.
No, yeah. So Nebraska's in that spot, and it's waiting to see where Purdue is. But when you're looking at the metrics for everything on where they're putting together seeding, you have a chance to beat someone ahead of you in those metrics that are part of that decision-making process. So it's big there. It's in the, especially when you're looking, Jack, like you said, over the rest of that schedule on the, okay, if you get to the conference tournament and you have 4 losses, are 3 of them, are they these 3 games and then another one? Or do you have the Purdue win to hang your hat more on, in the same way that you have a Wisconsin blowout, a win at Illinois, a win against Izzo? Like, you have some of these that can make up a little bit of ground for you if you slip up somewhere else.
Yeah, for sure. I pulled up Bart. Now it's the Rutgers game figured in, and he live updates his projections. He's got Nebraska as an underdog in 1 game this year at Iowa.
Okay.
He now has Nebraska as the projected underdog in 1 game, and he has them projected an underdog by 1.7 points in that game. He has them favored over Purdue. That might go up more here. He's got them big time, obviously. Northwestern by 15, Penn State by 22, Maryland by 22, wow. USC by 5, UCLA 2.5, and Iowa at home by 5.4. I mean, this Purdue game in a weird way can kind of take Nebraska to another new level in this season.
By the way, Jack, you take this result, like that forecasted result in the favorite, right? You take
the one loss.
Yeah, the one loss, and it's
yes, you're probably the Big Ten champ. I mean, maybe not Michigan. Probably not the Big Ten champs because you'd be 2 games. Michigan would still have to lose 2 games. But
you're a 2 or a 3 in the Big Ten tournament.
I think Michigan will lose one more game.
Yeah.
Well,
Jack, you'd be 28-3.
You'd be a fringe 1 seed.
Yeah, you'd be 28-3. Your only loss is being on the road to a rival, who you then would.
Yes, of course. If you're asking me if I would take right now 1 loss for the rest of the season, I think everyone would say yes. Everyone would say yes. But if they beat Purdue, that moves from I'd obviously like that to that's probably what they should do. Because again, you on paper, you've got four games where Nebraska will not be significant favorites. And then the other 3, if Nebraska ought to take care of business at home. I mean, Penn State and Northwestern looked hapless this week.
Yeah.
Games.
And the other part of this is you take care of business against Purdue, and you're looking at you'd be an underdog at Iowa, but you're not out of the realm of possibility of winning out.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. If you beat Purdue, then it's not like, well, you're going to need some stuff to happen to be the Big Ten regular season champ, which technically you still would, but or you're really you're going to have to get some stuff. You're going to have to win some games that you might not have thought you were going to be a 2 seed.
Mm-hmm.
That becomes the status quo, basically.
Yeah.
That becomes the status quo. Being a for sure a top 4 seed in the Big Ten, for sure a top 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, and being in the contention there for the NCAA tournament as a whole. And
you further separate yourself at the top of the Big Ten from kind of that next tier, because it's Illinois, Michigan,
Nebraska. There becomes a hard break.
Yes.
Unless Michigan State would beat Illinois tonight, but there becomes a hard break between Purdue, Michigan State, whatever, UCLA, Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, did Indiana end up beating Wisconsin today? I saw that game was happening today. I can look it up if you don't know off the top of your head.
I do not.
I got it right here. It went into overtime. Indiana won 78-77 in overtime.
Ooh.
Wow. Okay. That was at home for Indiana. So Wisconsin drops a chance to get a good win there. And they get Indiana gets a home win that they needed. They needed at that because their projected record now is 20-11. Like they're smack dab. They're going to be a smack dab bubble team, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Just real quick, Jack.
Yeah.
As we're talking about seeds, are we still confident in the same spot of where Nebraska has been? I'm still, my NCAA tournament seed confidence is still at a 2 for Nebraska.
Yeah, I think so.
Or are you falling towards a 3 a little bit more? Like you're at a 2, but you're towards a 3.
Because I think they can. I think if they, like I've said repeatedly, if they win the games they need to and stay at 5 wins or fewer, they're likely to be a 2. And that means they have 3 losses left between Purdue, Iowa, UCLA. I mean, you only have to win one of those, basically. So yeah. I'll say 2. I'll say 2 is where I'm at right now. And you're also getting to a spot too. You know, if things don't go incredibly well, but the floor for a 3 is probably 7 losses.
7-8 losses, yeah.
And so now you're at a point. There's 8 games left, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? There were 9.
Yeah, you're 21-2.
So you would have to go to get to 7 losses. You'd have to go 3-5.
Mm-hmm.
So,
like you're running out of games to stack losses.
Yeah, that's for sure. So I think that's and as long as you're 3, you have at least a shot of getting to Oklahoma City or St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're not far from that's just going to depend on what happens with Iowa State, what happens with Houston, what happens with Kansas. Man, Nebraska could lose Kansas to lose some games.
Here's what I'm interested in Tuesday's game, Jack. It's not an 8:00 tip. So it's not it's not late. So I'm happy about that. But 2, for all of the people that have been getting down and filling up the Haymarket and getting to all the bars and everything, how many people are leaving work early versus going directly from work to the arena, as opposed to having that break up until 8:00 it's a 6:00 tip from PBA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. And those are notoriously annoying if you're trying to get there quickly and get there by the beginning of the game. Mm-hmm. So let's let everybody out of work at 3 on Tuesday. It's too bad the game's not on Monday because that's going to be the 70-degree day where it's going to be beautiful outside. I think it's not going to be bad on Tuesday, but not quite sort of party weather like that. But it's a big one. It is a big one, and I will be at an orchestra concert, as I usually like to do my fine arts only when Nebraska is playing a top 10 Purdue team. And so, of course, I will be at my daughter's orchestra concert that night. Josh, you don't even know this, but Josh will be doing after the Nebrasketball Hour with you, brought to you by Nebraska Realty, Wahoo office. So
Josh famously undefeated on the season when he steps in for.
That's true. Things have gone very well. He's never done a loss. So I think that bodes well for Nebraska. If they win and I'm in a good, and it's a very exciting night, I might still butt my way in somehow. I wouldn't be surprised if that were it's
your company too.
The case. Before I have one question for you, and then we'll call it a night. If you're in Nebraska, if you're a Nebraska fan, if you're pulling for the best for Nebraska, who are you pulling for tonight when Illinois goes to Michigan State at on a primetime game at Fox? Listen, look at this, Caleb. It's a Saturday night, and this is like how I used to get excited for like the college football game of the week on is I get some popcorn, maybe I'll put it on the garage. I am fired up to watch college basketball.
So I think it depends. Would you rather, because Nebraska is probably going to end up as a 2 or a 3. If all things go right, Nebraska is probably going to end up as a 2 or a 3. It depends on if you want it to be more likely round 3 with Illinois or potentially round 2 with Michigan State in the semifinal of the Big Ten.
I tell you which one of those two I want.
Michigan State.
Yeah. Not even close.
So
not even close.
That becomes where you probably look to and say, even though you do have a loss to Illinois, you did split with them. They're not going to fall that far. But Michigan State just had a weird loss at Minnesota.
That's what I mean. Michigan State, if they lose this game, all of a sudden they are really out of the picture in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So
it depends. You could, because if Illinois wins, you help solidify that line that we were talking about. Nebraska being able to help solidify that line and break away kind of that top 3 from the rest.
I don't care about the top 3. I want the top 1, Caleb.
No, yes, but if those 3 separate, then you start looking at, okay, does Illinois lose this game? Does Michigan lose that game? The margins become really small between just the 3 of you instead of it being a pack of 5.
Yeah, I think Nebraska's not going to, and this is about seeding mainly because I think everyone, if they tie in records, get banners at the top. Yeah. So it's about the seeding, but I think Nebraska won't. I ran some of the Big Ten tournament scenarios, and Nebraska lost out on most of the tiebreakers. I think because a lot of the ties would have required Illinois to beat Michigan for that to happen, and so then they would essentially have a round robin record between all of those, and Illinois would have beaten both teams, and they would be 2-1, where Nebraska would be 1-2, and then they would go head to head against Michigan, who they lost to, and so that's what would happen if there was a 3-way tie there. Although it could be very, very different. I'm going to go for Michigan State.
I like this. I know, Jack. I know we normally please subscribe to the Patreon and go through the Discord. But we do have a good comment on the
Hey,
YouTube.
we got no super chat, so we can.
We got a good comment. I like Andy's comment here and this line of thinking. If you want to win the regular season conference, you cheer for MSU. If you want to secure a 1 through 4 seed in the conference tournament, you cheer for Illinois.
That's a good way to put it. And if that's true, I'll cheer for Michigan State. I'm done mitigating my expectations at the moment. That's the mood I'm in right now. Ask me tomorrow and I'll probably change. But and don't forget, Nebraska still would. I mean, they've already got essentially a 2-game lead on Michigan State as it stands right now because they've got the head-to-head. I don't think they need 3. I don't think they need 3. Plus, Michigan State, I don't know what their schedule looks like going forward, but they probably got another loss. Or they're at Purdue, they're at Indiana, they're at Wisconsin, they have UCLA at home, they're at Michigan. Michigan State is going to lose 13 more games. Screw that. Go Spartans.
Sparty on.
Michigan State, Michigan State is you've got more of a threat in Purdue, I guess. And if Purdue would beat Nebraska, Purdue would be, but then there would have to be 2 of them. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Well,
Iowa, I don't know.
Not even talking Big Ten seeding. If you're talking NCAA tournament seeding, Illinois is in one of those spots that could take a St. Louis from you.
Yeah, that's the other thing I'm thinking of. Like Illinois will take St. Louis. Probably not Oklahoma City, but they'll be automatic to St. Louis, obviously. Yeah. And so they're in the group. I have a question for you real quick. And I know we're over time, but who cares? Where do you think Michigan? I haven't measured out, or I don't know, like I'm measuring out with a yardstick. But what's the closest mileage location for Michigan? Because they factor it first on mileage, and then I think they kind of look at travel, how easy travel is to the different spots.
All right,
is it St. Louis still? Like Ann Arbor to
St. Louis or Philadelphia?
And I'll look up Buffalo to Buffalo distance. That's 299 miles, but that's just like driving.
Also, Philadelphia is closer than Buffalo.
Okay, and then St. Louis is. Oh goodness sakes! I apparently have never looked at a United States map. Never.
Yeah, I didn't know why you were looking at New York.
Sorry, calm down. I'm new to the country. I don't know the lay of the land yet. I honestly didn't know how far I didn't know how that Ann Arbor was that far east in Michigan. Yeah, never mind. That's a stupid thing that I brought.
Philadelphia.
That's great. Okay, well then that clarifies what I'm going to say. Forget don't worry about Michigan. Don't worry about UConn in terms of being a team that steals one of those spots. I'm going to go back to my top 10 here in the net if I lost it. So don't worry about those. I'm going to get the net rankings back up. But you don't need to worry about Michigan. You don't need to worry about Arizona. You don't need to worry about Duke. But then Illinois, Iowa State, Houston are next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then Purdue is another one I wonder about. And one of the things Nebraska could do to really start to not have that not be an issue, obviously, is beat Purdue.
Yeah, Purdue's going to be in that same area where they're looking at St. Louis or Philadelphia.
Okay, now I'm going to check. What is West Lafayette? And I know this isn't the only thing they look at, but it is. So 270 miles to St. Louis from West Lafayette. And Philadelphia is. Oh, man, I'm bad at geography. Well, I knew Philadelphia is longer, but that's 706. That's not even close.
But
yeah, so
those are their 2 closest still. Yeah,
they're going to St. Louis then. Probably as their number one. It is weird how they selected the sites this year, and there's not more middle of the country sites. It feels like. So Illinois, Iowa State, Houston, Purdue, Kansas. You've got to stay ahead of. You can have 3 of them in front of you, and it doesn't matter what seed you get.
Right.
And I think there's also a kind of an odd scenario where it may not, you may even do better than that. Cause if Illinois went to like its second choice, or if Purdue went to their second choice, then that wouldn't be Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
So this is for the scenario where you're a 3 seed.
Right.
where you're and you say how many teams are ahead. Illinois would probably be ahead of Nebraska in that, so they're probably going to St. Louis, so that's one spot. And then I think maybe one of the two out of Iowa State or Houston. But those are teams that you'd love to see lose.
Hey, can you real quick look up one more to St. Louis? How far from Hartford?
No, I can't.
Are the Huskies going to go to St. Louis? Is UConn? Are they a Portland? Their number one choice would be Portland, right? Do you fold the map?
Anyhow, so that we're wrapping up the show now. By the way, we're going to the NCAA tournament if I don't kill Caleb before it. Or perhaps on the way there when we're in the car 8 hours or 30 hours. I don't know geography. Who's going to navigate if we go, Caleb?
Not you.
Did I just lose?
Not you.
did I just lose the chance to be the in-car navigator?
We're going to shove you in the back of the car and say, we'll talk to you when we get there.
The I-80 Club is going to the NCAA tournament. We hope St. Louis or Oklahoma City, but wherever it is, we will be there. Thank you to Husker Power Products. And they are our major sponsor for this. You're going to hear a lot about Husker Power Products because we are very, very thankful to them for making our trip possible. We could not do it without them. And if we're looking for some further community partners, smaller level partners that want some shout outs for not a lot of money, we got that for you. So if you're a business or you're interested in doing some trade, maybe even hit us up, sales@i80club.com. And we got a package for you. And then there'll also be a fan level where it's not just, fans don't want advertising necessarily, although we're going to give you some, and we're going to give you a bunch of perks too that go along with it as well. So maybe a little limited edition apparel. More coming out on that in the very near future. But be watching for more on that, and get excited, Caleb, because we're going to the dance.
We're going to be there.
100%. 100% chance for us to go to the dance. All right, we're going to wrap it up now. That was fun. Excited to watch some of the games. Tuesday night, as I said, will be Josh and Caleb after the Purdue game for Nebrasketball Hour, brought to you by Nebraska Realty Wahoo office. In the meantime, between now and then on Monday, Caleb will be joining, if Mike Schaefer's voice works this week, for Unemployed after he had he was unemployed during the regular Unemployed show. So I don't know what you and Mike are going to get to. Probably, hopefully a little bit of basketball, but
I'll tell you, I've been prepping for free advice.
Oh, free advice is always a great section with them. If you've ever watched my shows with Mike, they air on Fridays, and I get to say, it's kind of like our old What Chaps Your Hides segment, Caleb. I get to complain about 3 things at the end of every show. And if you did not see my show with Mike on Friday, we ranked, the blind rankings were restaurants that no longer exist in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Ooh.
We could have done the whole show on it. It was extensive and very fun. So even if you think that the basketball stuff will be outdated, get to the last half of the show, because it was one of my favorite things ever. It was a whole lot of fun. So I think that's it. Did I forget anything else, Caleb Bennett? Quick kernels, Husker Max, anything else you want to throw out there?
No, there's I've got a quick game recap up at Husker Max. I'll have a quick kernels going out here before too long. I needed to wait to see what the hell Purdue was going to do. So that'll be going up here probably in the next 30 minutes. So make sure you stay subscribed to the I-80 Club YouTube channel.
And all over, if you want to watch the quick kernels, you can see them. Make sure you have Facebook. We got Instagram. We got TikTok. We got all of that for you as well. And you can see our quick kernels there natively. You don't even have to get into YouTube if you'd like to do that.
Yeah, Nate Rohr pumped out a couple for softball.
We added Nate Rohr to the I-80 Club team.
Nick Handley will be doing some baseball next week. Yeah.
Look at this all-star team we are making here at the I-80 Club. Fantastic.
That's awesome.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining us. Give us a YouTube subscribe on your way out if you do not mind. Let us keep doing this, and we will see you next time on the Nebrasketball Hour, brought to you by Nebraska Realty Wahoo Office. Bye.